Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkers podcast. So I haven't been very active of late. That's because I've been unfortunately doing non-woodworking things, much to my dismay, but I am going to get busy-ish with the woodworking. I've got some things coming up, so I'm going to be blogging and doing some more videos and obviously keeping up with the podcast again for the next few weeks. So for anyone that's missed it, I did release a video a few days ago. That was how the Roman workbench works, part 3. So I think that's probably going to be the last video I do in regards to how it works or how I use it. For a long time, and anyway, I feel between the part 2 and the part 3 I've pretty much covered like everything I do ish, I think. So I can't see us really doing anything more with regards to like talking you through how I use it. I feel I've like pushed the limits with that. Also, for anyone that might have missed it as well, I did release a podcast that was late last week, because I normally release it on a Sunday. I think it come out on a Tuesday, I believe. I think I released it on a Tuesday, so it's there in case you missed it and you want to check it out. Also, for anyone else that missed it as well, I released my ebook. I made it free, so it's totally free to everybody. There's no sign up, there's nothing, it's just 100% free. Click on the link, it'll take you straight to the document. You can read the document online or you can download the book. It's, like I said, it's totally free. I'd also like to say a really big thank you to Matthew Cooper and to Matthias Kronenberger. I think I'm saying that right. I hope I'm saying that right. Those two guys, they bought us a coffee, or rather they give us a donation. It was a very generous donation from the two guys, so a really big thank you to yous too. And a massive thank you to everybody that's been supporting us of late. I've had some really nice messages, some really nice comments from different people from around the world, so it's really nice. So thank you very much. So today I started making a travel guitar. This is this is a bit of a concept. It's basically, it's going to have a square body. It's going to be really small. It's not going to have a headstock. The tuning pegs are going to be on the main body. I am going to try and make this kind of an acoustic guitar. I don't know how it's going to sound. I'm not a luthier. I've never built any sort of musical instrument. I do play the guitar. I've been playing the guitar since I was about 13 years old. But other than playing the guitar, I really don't know a great deal about them. I have kind of been like reading up on sort of like tone woods, what sort of woods I should be using for the body and for the fretboard, and I kind of haven't got the right materials, although I think I'll get away with what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing the sides of the body and the neck out of American walnut. For the back, I'm going to be using European ash, I believe it is, and for the fretboard, I'm using ash again. For the top, I am going to be using some European redwood. So it's a kind of a bit of a mismatch. I think me personally, I think it'll look pretty cool. The contrast between the European oak and the American walnut, I think that'll be a really nice contrast. I'm not overly sure how this is going to sound, simply because of the size of the body. The body's going to be really small. The whole point of of building this travel guitar. Obviously it's going to travel with us, but so I can basically put it in a carry bag and, you know, it'll just come with us. You know, so I just want it to be as small as possible, but you know, I want to be able to play a guitar. Now I have got a ukulele. I was debating on whether to take the ukulele with us, and I do enjoy playing a ukulele, but I probably prefer my guitar more. Obviously, I've only been playing the ukulele for the last maybe year and a half ish, so I do still prefer a guitar to a ukulele. So that's the whole point of me building this travel guitar. I am making a video for it. I will be doing a blog on it. I'm probably gonna do something on SketchUp. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm not a loofah, so this is a kind of a bit of an experiment for me. Hopefully it goes well, and if it does, I can see myself building a ukulele in the very near future. So today I was just going to mention a few things I've done, or rather I'm going to do with the bench, the newest bench I've built. And I was going to cover a few misconceptions, because there's been a few misconceptions. There's been a few people like commenting and stuff. Like it hasn't been bad comments, but it's kind of made me brain itch a little bit. So I'm gonna kind of address those. So with a bench, I'm probably gonna getting lost for words there. So with the bench, I'm probably gonna do a blog on what I'm gonna discuss here, well, at least some of it. So I'm gonna be drawing angles and some measurements on the bench. So I know there's a lot of people out there that's, you know, the workbenches are the pride and joy, and you know, they get really upset if they even get a scratch on the workbench. Anybody that's followed us for any amount of time knows that I'm totally opposite of that. I believe a workbench is there to get used and abused. You know, it's going to get full of chisel marks. It's going to get full of, like, you know, saw marks, whatever. It's, you know, for me, it's there to be used. It's not a, you know, for me, you shouldn't be treating it as a piece of furniture. You know, and a lot of people do. That's up to yourselves, you know, if you want to do that. But in my opinion, I just don't think you should be doing it. You know, it's there to get a job done. So with this, my reasoning behind drawing angles is because I do use angles a lot. Basically, I'll draw an angle and I'll transfer that angle to my sliding bevel, or I think you Americans call it a T-square bevel, something like that. So my process for this is that I'll use my speed square, put it on the edge of my room and workbench, whichever one I'm using, find the angle I want and draw a pencil line and set me sliding bevel. So with me, I use a lot of the same angles, a kind of 15 degrees or 75 degrees, whichever way you want to look at it. That's quite a common angle for me. Also 10 degrees, same again, 80 degrees or 100 degrees, same whichever way you want to look at it. Those are really common angles for me. There is a few other angles as well, you know, that I do use on a regular basis, like, you know, like 6 degrees is being very becoming very regular for us to use. So it makes a lot of sense for me to, you know, to actually draw these angles on the bench. I draw them anyway on the bench, but I just draw them in pencil, and in time, you know, the pencil just comes off. So I'm going to do something a bit more permanent. I'm going to have it, basically, I'm going to get a Sharpie and do it with a Sharpie. I don't know how long the Sharpie markings will last. I'm gathering it should be a, you know, a decent amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead with that. I think it's a bit silly just to keep on marking them on the bench, and just having to keep coming back and back and back to do it. May as well just do it once and then they're there all the time. So this is the same with markings, certain measurements, because there's like certain measurements that I'll use again and again and again. And sometimes, it's just really quick. I've already got the piece on the Roman workbench, so, I might not have my ruler or my tape measure or whatever. I'm using most likely a ruler to hand. Yeah, so sometimes it's just easier and quicker just to be able to take a measurement off the bench. So as I said, there is like, certain measurements that I'll use time and time again. So you could actually say it was like I'm incorporating a story stick into the bench. You could kind of look at it that way. But I think it's just going to be really handy for me. I'm going to do it. I couldn't care less about having the markings on. It's it would be a different matter if it was just being graffitied, or if you were letting a child scribble all over it. That's a bit of a different matter. But if you're putting markings on and those markings are going to benefit you, you're going to use those markings. I personally think it's a good idea, and I really don't care, because I know what those markings are for. So the second thing I'm going to do is to drill some bigger holes into the bench, and these holes are solely for tools, to house tools. It's getting on my nerves a little bit now, having tools all over the bench. On my first Roman workbench, I actually done this. I actually drilled bigger holes. There was a few 1-inch holes, and I think I drilled one. It's 1.25 inch diameter. I can't remember whether it was 1 or 2. I think it was just 1, and that was just to actually house me mallets, me chiseling mallet. So it's I think a lot of people might be thinking, well, why don't you just like get another one of your benches out and just put them on your bench, or use your tool tote? And I'll be honest with you, I'm just lazy. I'm just born idle. So it's one of those. Plus, what I've come to notice on the Roman workbench, at the top of the bench, or what I would identify as the top of the front of the bench, the right hand side, it doesn't kind of get used a great deal, so it's a perfect place to put some more holes. I'm not talking about like 20 more holes or anything. I'm talking maybe about like half a dozen holes, if that. Obviously I've got the rails in the new bench, so they can accommodate like things like me jack plane, me number 4 plane, even the router plane can go into those. So that gets them out of the way. It obviously keeps them off the grass or the mud. So that's pretty good. But it's the likes of, me 1-inch chisel obviously doesn't fit down a 1/4 inch hole. Obviously the rest of my chisels do, so they're not an issue. I can like basically put them where I want to put them. But there's other things, like sort of, mortise gauges, things like that. They'll just pop in nicely to a 1-inch hole. So I haven't done this yet, but I am gonna do it. It worked out pretty well for the first Roman workbench, so I think I'm probably gonna do it again. See how I get on with it. As I said before, this isn't the last bench. There is going to be another bench after this one, so I'm kind of hoping that's going to be the last bench, or at least it's going to be the last bench for quite some time. I'm going to have like the majority of like measurements and whatever else better suited to me. So I think it kind of should be the last bench for at least a long time. But then again, this is me, and I do change my mind as often as the weather changes. So anything could happen. So I'm going to touch on some misconceptions, because there's been comments on a couple of videos, on some posts and stuff, people saying, kind of implying that you need a vise, or people asking us where they should put a vise, because, they've read elsewhere, or they've been told elsewhere that they really need a vise. And I mentioned this on the video. I personally, I really don't feel you need a vise on these sort of benches. Would it be handy? Yeah, probably in certain tasks it probably wouldn't. You'd probably be thankful that you did have a vise on, but as I said, I just don't feel it's necessary, and you can get by quite nicely without it. I mean, the notch accessory, I think that probably takes care of a lot of issues that you might have. Maybe cutting tenons in the vertical position like you would do on a tall bench. Things like that. I mean, resawing. Even today, I was resawing pieces of walnut, European ash, with a notch. There's pictures of that on my Instagram if you want to go and check that out. There'll be a link in the description. There's a link in the description for all my content, for everything. So if you want to check anything out, click the Linktree link, and it'll have links to everything. So going back to the vise, there was, I can't remember which video it was on, but there was one guy. Yeah, don't get us wrong, the guy wasn't being nasty or anything. He wasn't being mean or anything like that. It was just, he basically said, he was advising people, and he was basically saying, you should really have a vise on here, and you need X amount of holes. And I had like a couple of back and forths with him over the comments, and I basically said to him, I think you're kind of missing the whole thing with the pegs and the wedge system. You don't really need a vise, because another thing that makes my brain itch, what I've seen people actually, like, they've got the lower bench, they've got the peg holes in, but they've actually got the piece of wood in the vise on the side in the planing. It's like, I really don't understand that. It's like, you've got the peg system there, the peg system does a great job. I've demonstrated this time and time again, on my Instagram feed and on YouTube videos. It's tried and tested. The benches. They've been using this bench. That's why it's called the Roman workbench. It dates back to the Roman times, probably before the Roman times. I'm not 100% on the history of it. I have read some of it. Obviously, Chris Swartz is the guy for that. He's like a bit of a historian with the old woodwork, and so I'd recommend, if you want to learn the history of it, go and check out some of his literature. So yeah, the vise. Back to the vise. I mean, you really don't need one. I mean, I think when people kind of look at the Roman workbench, I think they might be saying to themselves, well, how am I going to, cut a tenant? How am I going to maybe edge plane, not edge plane, end grain plane, if you had like 3 or 4 boards together. I personally feel that the notch accessory deals with that quite nicely. and that's why I feel like you don't need a vise. I mean, that notch accessory, it literally takes about like half an hour to make. You saw two pieces of wood, you plane them and round the edges off, and you glue the thing together, and that's it. You know, plus it's going to be saving you like the money, like, you know, the hardware for a vise. What I probably would recommend, you could actually, rather than put a vise on it, I would probably recommend using a Moxon vise. Same again though, I really don't think you need a Moxon vise, although it probably would come in handy. That was something else that a few people were asking us questions like over the vise, where to put the vise. And what I said to them was basically, personally I would put a vise on it, but if you really want to put a vise on it, I would recommend a Moxon vise. And the next thing I said was, with a Moxon vise, you can pretty much put it anywhere on the bench you want it, like pretty much, as long as there's dog holes there to accommodate the hole fasts, if you're using hole fasts, that is, or providing you can get some clamps on. I think you'd probably be better off using hole fasts. You know, my personal opinion, it's gonna hold the vise a lot better. So another misconception, and I've had this a couple of times, not recently but more in the past. Someone actually got very upset about it. I don't know why. The guy follows us on Facebook. You know, I really don't understand why he got so upset. I was like, you kind of follow us on Facebook, but yet you're getting upset about what I'm posting. So why even follow us if I'm upsetting you? You know. But regardless of that. Not so many two words. He basically just said a Roman workbench is a glorified sawhorse. So obviously anyone that follows us or follows similar people to myself will know it's it's not just a glorified sawhorse. You know, there's the likes of myself. You know, I'm making all sorts of furniture. You know, I've made chairs and tables and whatever else on it. And you've got the likes of Lowly Mountain Banjo. You know, he's making banjos. He's making musical instruments on the bench. You know, so that's kind of a testament, you know, between the two, that it's not just a sawhorse. So, you know, there has been a few people who've just said, you know, it's basically just a sawhorse, and you know, and whatever else, which takes us to the next misconception is that you can't make fine furniture on a Roman workbench. So what would you define as fine furniture? I mean, me personally, what I would class as fine furniture is maybe, you know, I would probably go with a blanket chest. I'm not saying that's the best, you know, example of fine furniture, but I would consider that as fine furniture. You know, I think, you know, the likes of some campaign furniture, you know, I think that's what I would consider as fine furniture. A Queen Anne table, I'd probably consider, well, I would consider that as fine furniture. Now, I haven't actually built a Queen Anne table on the bench, but I think I'm probably going to do it in the very near future, just to prove a point, basically. Plus, a Queen Anne's table is, you know, it's a beautiful table as well. So, you know, I've had that off a few people as well. I mean, I'd like to hear your opinion on it. You know, if anyone wants to comment, you know, by all means, comment on my social media, send us an email or whatever. You know, I would happily discuss this and debate this with people. But my personal opinion, what I've just said before, I think the dovetail blanket chest, what I mean, I would probably consider that fine furniture. Obviously, there might be those of you that would disagree with us, but you know, when you look at some of the complex joints I've actually done, well, if you could consider them as complex joints, I mean, obviously I've done multiple dovetail joints on the bench, and probably the most complex joint I've done on the bench is probably the Japanese dovetails, and I am actually going to write a blog about those. I made a blanket chest, and I actually incorporated the Japanese dovetails into the build. So I have already started it. I'm gonna, whenever I get around to finishing it, but I am gonna do a blog post about it because they're actually quite a good joint. So I will say that they are awkward to cut. I found them, awkward. There's no other word to describe them really. The word awkward. But my point being is that the Roman workbench had handled it. Would a tall bench have handled it better? Possibly. But the Roman workbench got the job done. And obviously, for my first attempt at those sort of dovetails, I thought I'd done a pretty decent job, me personally. If you want to check them out, you'll have to scroll through me feed or my profile on Instagram or Facebook. But they are there, and I think they're pretty cool. What I didn't do and what I regret about not doing it was actually gluing the joints, because originally I was going to leave the joints like unglued basically, and I just wanted to see how the joint behaved. So I'm kind of a bit upset with myself over that, because I kind of doubted myself a little bit, and I said I best glue it. But before I actually glued them up, they were absolutely solid, them joints. It's obviously it must be to do with the structure of the joint itself, but they were absolutely solid, them. Even now I regret gluing them up. I really should have just left them alone. I think that's definitely something I'm gonna do in the future. I don't know what I'm gonna build, but I'm gonna incorporate those Japanese dovetails, and just to see how they go. Anyway, I digress. So, what would you consider a fine piece of furniture? I'm actually in my sitting room now, and I'm looking at the last chair I made, which was a Welsh stick chair. It was kind of a Welsh stick chair, but it had a little bit of a Windsor look about it as well. Again, there's pictures of this if you want to check it out. Would you class that as a fine piece of furniture? I kind of would. There's obviously there's improvements to be made in my work, but I think it's kind of on the right line to a fine piece of furniture. Sorry, but by all means, I'm not saying that I'm some sort of master joiner, because I'm far from it. There's plenty of improvement. But what I'm trying to say is, I would consider that as a fine piece of furniture. Somebody who's built a chair, maybe like a well-known chair maker, obviously who's a master at it. I would say, that's a fine piece of furniture. So yeah, I personally think you can make fine pieces of furniture on the Roman workbench. So I think I'm going to call it a day. I feel I've blabbed on enough. Also, while I remember, I was going to gather all of the Roman workbenches together, because I can actually get all of them. I think there's going to be 2 of them that are going to be getting chopped up for firewood, basically. So I was going to got all the workbenches together, and I was gonna basically, like go through them all, show the evolution of them. Just a video, basically. So, what do you think? Do you think I should do that? I think it would be pretty cool, but obviously, I feel like I'm maybe overdoing the Roman workbench a little bit, because I think for the last like 2 months or whatever, it's just been Roman workbench. So I think I might be annoying people a little bit now. But if you do want to see that, I'd really appreciate it if you just a quick message on my social media. Just leave a comment. Yeah, I'd love to see it, whatever. Or yeah, it'd be cool to see. Just kind of so I get a feel for how many people would want to see something like that. Just before I chop them up, because there is a couple I'm going to chop up, and I'm possibly going to be giving a couple away as well to a couple of people. So while I've kind of still got access to all of them, I thought it might be a good idea. So let us know. Again, if you've got any ideas, any questions, anything you want us to talk about, same again, leave the comments. It would really help us out, because sometimes I really do struggle, thinking about what I'm going to talk about. So yeah, I think that's me, and until the next time, I shall speak to you later.